There have been many films about the Second World War over the years and decades, but the zone of interest to me feels very unique. Let's talk about it. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. Now, today's subject that is, well, discussed in the film that we're talking about, the zone of interest, is obviously not a happy one. So if you easily get disturbed by things surrounding the Second World War, and in particular things that went on in the concentration camps and the Holocaust, etc., this review won't be for you. If you can stomach it, if you just want to hear my shortest version of it, it's definitely a film worth watching. It's obviously very difficult to watch, but not because of what you see on screen, but of what is implied and other things that are going on around you, right? So if you can, I would say watch it, right? Anyway, so yes, for everyone who's sticking around, thank you. Again, this is definitely not an easy film, but it is a really, really interesting one, right? So this film was made by Jonathan Glazer. It is based on a book which was written about the commander who was in charge of the concentration camp Auschwitz. If you're not familiar with that, it was the biggest Nazi concentration camp. It was located in Poland. It even had various, as it were, sort of branches and stuff. It was that big, and just the amount of atrocities that were committed there, it's really, really hard to imagine just the scale of it. Industrial extermination would be a fitting term for it. That sounds, if you've not actually looked into these kind of things, and that is something that doesn't happen as much nowadays. I remember when I was a kid, in primary school, we discussed and looked into the Second World War a lot. It also became an interest of mine, and it stayed that way throughout my life, because every time you return to it, you're like, how are we humans able to do this to each other, but nowadays, especially young people, they know less and less of the Second World War. It's becoming more distant, so it's really important to explore these things. But yes, if you look at these things, this is not hyperbole. It really was an industrial scale extermination that was going on there, right? Anyway, so this film, the book, originally, it's about the commander who was in charge of Auschwitz, and just a really crazy situation of him having his house literally next to the concentration camp. We're talking literally like they shared a wall with the concentration camp. I didn't know this, right? So this was new to me. But you're like, it's fascinating how you keep hearing things about the Second World War and going, how is it possible to take it, a notch even further into insanity? You never stop hearing things that you're like, when is it going to stop? How is it possible that we can just make things worse and worse? So this is what this story is about, right? It's him and his family living in a house right next to, adjacent to the concentration camp Auschwitz. And it's like a day in the life story, more or less. But we'll get into the plot, but that's just sort of to give it an intro what this is about. So yes, I've already mentioned it. So we're focused on this family. So we've got the father, mother, and they've got 5 children, if I remember correctly. So the father who plays the commander is the actor that plays him is called Christian Friedel. His wife is played by Sandra Hüller. And yes, so they've got these 5 kids, and we're watching, as I mentioned, sort of the day in the life. So I'll talk about what makes this film really, really interesting, but also very bizarre, sort of from the viewing experience, etc. But we are talking about the plot here. So yes, they've been living there for quite some time. They're quite happy. They've got a large garden, everything seems to be going quite well for them. The camp itself is going well, which obviously to us means that horrible things are happening and they're getting better at it. So that is obviously very horrific. But yes, we see how the kids deal with their daily surroundings, being in this environment, and how they cope with it, and what experiences they have, and what they learn about humans and how they treat each other. And if there is one big sort of dramatic event, if you will, because the film actually it's a bit devoid of drama, as it were, but we'll talk about that a bit later as well. But if there is one big event that kind of moves the plot a bit, it's that they're supposed to be moved, right? So they want to take the commander and they want to get him elsewhere to supervise all of these concentration camps. And the mother does not want this because she's very happy with the life there. Her words, not mine. And she wants them to stay, right? And that is the one big sort of dramatic event that we see. But that is more or less the plot. So the plot itself is very basic. This film is not about the plot, right? The film is not about the plot. You could actually downright say the plot is boring. There's not much that happens. You don't have a typical structure of a film where you have a climax. You have a sort of climax, but I'm not going to spoil that. You've got a sort of climax in the film, but the story itself does not have a climax. So we don't have, anything going on with particularly notable character development or any of these kind of things. We're watching this family. They live right next to a concentration camp, the worst concentration camp in the history of humankind. They're just living a daily life completely unaffected by all this stuff going around them. And there's an issue where they're supposed to maybe leave their house, right? And that's the plot. So this film, again, it's not about the plot, it's about everything else. Because Jonathan Glazer has taken a really interesting approach to this film. They've used largely, if not exclusively, I would have to rewatch the film to actually check this, because I didn't notice, I'll be honest, I didn't notice until later on when I sort of thought about it more and watched extra footage on the Blu-ray. They use still cameras, so they set up various cameras on and around the vicinity, etc., and they capture all the things that happen, right? So there's not a cameraman following them around. They've basically removed anything and all from the film that could sort of cause a dramatic tension or atmosphere or something like that, because usually you would expect us to be following this family around and seeing their emotions up close and all these kind of things. And here it's just like we're a fly on the wall, we're watching this family and their daily lives, because that's what it's about. Because while it's their daily life, it's just in this complete insanity of them right next to the concentration camp. Because what they've done in this film, and it is so incredibly disturbing, you'll see the kids having a pool party, inviting their friends, everyone's having fun. You'll see her mother comes to visit, so the kid's grandmother, she comes to visit and she's showing her the garden. Or you'll just see the father maybe talking to some of his officers, etc., in the garden or in front of the house. And while any of this is going on, right, or you'll have a kid maybe playing in the garden or in the room or something, while any of this is going on, in the background, you will hear typical noises that would have come from the concentration camp. You will hear people screaming. You will hear people getting shot. You'll hear dogs barking. You'll hear all sorts of commotion. And this just happens in the background. You never see it. So this film isn't graphic in the sense of you don't see any gore, you don't see any blood, any of that, but it's on in the background. And then, you're realizing this isn't just fiction. This is how this family actually lived. And you're like, how on earth can you do that? And on top of everything else, as the mother, and the father as well, go, yeah, we've got a great life, we've built ourselves a lovely life here, and all these kind of things. And it's just like, what is going on? It's incredible. It's just interesting to watch. So you're not watching this film for the plot, as it were. It's an experience in that sense, because it's not only that we've got all this stuff going on in the background, and you're like, how is this possible? How could you live like that? But the family is just so just matter of fact, going on about their daily life and how lovely it is, and you see how, especially the parents, how desensitized they are, and you also witness how the kids become desensitized to all these kind of things that happen around them or normalize them. I mean, just imagine the kids are playing and they hear all these noises, and obviously the younger they are, the more they learn this is how human beings treat each other. Or it boggles the mind, the whole thing. Again, this is what I'm saying. How is it possible, even after all these decades, I'm still learning things about the Second World War that make me go, how? It's just crazy. But it's done so wonderfully. Like I say, it's interesting because it's not judgy in the sense or anything like that. You know, that it's presenting the events, how it was back then for them living in this house, and you know, it's like, here you go. This is what it was like. Make of it what you will. And you're just sitting there going, this is absurd. You know, this is grotesque even. You feel sorry for the kids in particular because, you know, they weren't asked to be in this situation. They're the only ones who didn't choose to be there, yet they're stuck in that situation. Slightly spoilery, I already mentioned the grandmother who comes to visit. There's something interesting that happens with her that I'm not going to spoil, but when you're like, yeah, I am not surprised, right? Anyway, yeah, so it's really fascinating. It's really interesting. Again, I just like the sort of fly on the wall feeling that the film has got, and the presentation, and just putting us in there and being like, yeah. So it's not an easy film to watch, right? Okay, my review here might feel a bit rambly, but it's just because, like, even going through the film in my head, I'm like, it's just, I mean, I am probably going to watch it at some point again and really try and pay even more attention to all the film elements of it, you know, how it was made, etc. Now that I've also seen the background, the extras and stuff, but it's just, it just boggles the mind, the whole thing. So if you can stomach it, right? If you can stomach it, go ahead and watch it. What I can also see is acting-wise, you know, it's really phenomenal because these two, especially the parents, it's just, I can imagine, and the one playing the father, Christian Friedel, he actually said he had no interest in playing a Nazi, but Jonathan Glazer, when he explained what he was going for here, where he's really trying to show these are not super evil people, you know, they're just, it's just crazy what normal people are willing to put up with and turn themselves into just to have a nice life, as it were, sort of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's really fascinating to me, and they both do a really good job acting-wise. I mean, you do, as the audience, kind of go at the end of it, you kind of hate them because, I mean, yeah, why wouldn't you? But it's a really interesting watch, difficult to stomach, but if you can, please watch The Zone of Interest. I think it's fascinating. Actually won an Oscar as well for Best Foreign or International Film, something like that. In 2023, I think it was. I feel it's absolutely deserving because it's very unique. Because usually you get these kind of war films, etc., or something that is trying to be visually grotesque and dramatic and all these kind of things. This one is devoid of drama, and it's just like, it feels almost like a documentary, almost. And I really like it for that. So check it out if you can stomach it. That'll be all from me today. If you enjoyed this review, I suppose I always say that, so it's kind of all about, yeah. Anyway, please leave a like. You can share it as well, of course. Leave a comment if you want to talk about this film or any other ones, especially involving the Second World War, but anything else, a range of historical topics that I'm interested in. Maybe you have one for me. I'll thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care. Bye.